I'm attorney Brian Dailey, broadcasting live from high atop the Law Show studios in the home of Motown, Detroit, Michigan, and News Talk 760 WJR. It's the Law Show, answering all your legal questions at 855-529-7469. That's 855-529-7469. That's 855-529-7469. If you've got a legal question, call us right now at 855-529-7469. We're joined here today by Matt Kachik, who is head of the Family Law, Criminal Defense, and Probate Department. Welcome to the Law Show, Mr. Matt Kachik.
Hey, Brian. Happy Sunday. Always a pleasure to be here.
It is always a pleasure to be here, and I've always enjoyed you being here, and I appreciate it. So what do you have for us today? What's new in family law?
You know, the newest development that we've been seeing in family law is a change in the trend of how courts are treating change of domicile cases. That's where one party wants to move more than 100 miles away or even out of state, and the courts have to deal with how are they going to address that situation. In the past, Brian, it used to be really, really hard to move out of state as long as the other parent was following their parenting time and not, and being an involved parent. And we've seen at least 2 cases now where that trend is slowly changing, where what they're actually doing is they're allowing the parents to move out of state as long as that parent comes to the table with an alternate parenting time to address the change that allows the parenting time schedule to still be followed as to allowing meaningful parenting time with the parent who's not moving. So we're seeing an increasing trend like that, Brian. And it used to be when people would come to me and say, I want to move out of state, the first question I would ask is, does the other parent allow time with the children? Do they follow their schedule? And if they did, I said it would be almost impossible to move. Well, that's not the situation anymore, and I don't know how much of that is a reaction to the fact that the courts are becoming increasingly aware that because of this economy, they have to allow parents to move in order to get good jobs if they find better jobs out of state, because the sad reality is here in Michigan, we're still really struggling with a very difficult economy. So that's probably the newest development that's been going on in family law. So certainly if anyone out there is contemplating a move out of state, if you just scored a sweet job in Texas or Oregon or something like that, please give me a call. I'd be, of course, more than happy to talk with you either over the phone or in the office and sit down with you over a nice cup of coffee and discuss all your options, because now, more than ever, the courts are allowing these moves out of state. And that's a big deal because, like I said a few years ago, these moves out of state were almost impossible when the other parent was still following their parenting time, but that's simply no longer the case. And that's probably the greatest development that's been going on in family law. Another development we've been seeing a lot in traffic law, Brian, is increasingly we're seeing people that are deciding to just pay their tickets and not challenge them. And the reason why that's such a huge mistake is if you pay your ticket, it will go on your driving record for 7 years. So if you've got a traffic ticket, please call me on the phone. The call is absolutely free. The advice is free. Let's talk about your options, because the biggest mistake I see people make, Brian, is they get 1 or 2 tickets on their record and then they call the lawyer. That's a horrible idea. You want to call the lawyer the minute you get that first ticket in hopes of keeping your driving record 100% clean.
That's awesome information. We really appreciate it. But why should somebody take time off work? I mean, it's a 7-year amount of time to have 2 points on your record. Is that really worth the time off work to come in and see you and have to go to court? They got to take time off work to come see you. They got to take time off work to go to court. I mean, doesn't that seem like a lot?
Well, first, with regard to, doesn't it seem like overkill when you just have 1 ticket? And the answer is no, because car insurance companies will charge you increased premiums for at least 5 to 6 years just because you get that 1 ticket. And statistically speaking, most people get a ticket more than once every 7 years. And if you continue to get more tickets, your insurance rates will simply skyrocket. And on top of that, Brian, at Daily Law Firm, we can take all of the intake information and the retainer over the phone, so you don't even have to leave your office. You can call us on the phone. All you've got to do is make sure you have your ticket number handy when you call me. I can take care of all the information on the phone, and we handle all the paperwork. And best of all, Brian, in the vast majority of courts, I can appear solely on the client's behalf to try and negotiate a deal from keeping it from going on their record, so they don't even have to take off time from work.
That's information that is very usable. Appreciate it. If you have a traffic ticket or somebody you know has been given a traffic ticket recently, call Matt Kachik. There's no charge for the initial consultation. He can take care of the ticket. You don't need to take time off work to come see us. You don't need to take time off work to go to court. And it's going to cost you the same as if you just went ahead and paid the ticket in terms of fines. Now, there are the legal fees that you got to pay, but it's well worth it because you're avoiding the increase of insurance. Matt, I wanted to say hats off and give a shout out to Brad Wing, he did a very good job of settling a case last week for a young man who was involved in a motorcycle car accident who, up until he came into our office, was determined by everybody to have been at fault. And Brad Wing actually went to work, found two brand new witnesses who came and said it wasn't his fault. It was the other driver's fault, who came through one of those Michigan turnarounds and then just abruptly stopped, and the motorcycle ran into the back of it. He had a fairly severe injury in his hand, and we got that man a lot of money. In fact, you know what he's going to do? He's going to go to school with it. So
that's great. Well, and Brian, I hear all the time people say, well, wait a second. My insurance company told me I don't really have a valid claim. Why should I get a lawyer? My insurance company, they analyzed the claim, they looked at it and told me no. And, why do I need a lawyer? Like, what's a lawyer going to do above and beyond the insurance company? Because they're telling me I'm not entitled to a claim. Like, what would you say to those people?
Well, that's sort of like my young son, Max, who said the other day, hey, Daddy, I can be in charge of the cookie jar, no problem. I'll take good care of it. Really, you don't want to go to an insurance company to find out if you've got a claim against them where they're going to have to pay money, because insurance companies, they're in the business of taking money. They hate to pay money, and they'll do anything to avoid the responsibility. Some insurance companies are worse than others, but the great equalizers, the Dailey Law Firm, and the personal injury lawyers and insurance lawyers of the Dailey Law Firm, we can equalize it all. We can take care of you, and we can get you where you need to be. We had somebody check in the other day. There's a lot of news lately about the Michigan no-fault law and how the Republicans are trying to change things. By the way, just a real quick script. Have you seen the newspaper recently where one of the Shostak brothers, Bobby Shostak?
Yeah.
Who is, I think, a muckety-muck in the Republican Party. His brother got hit for a judgment on a piece of property up in northern Michigan that didn't perform as well as he thought it was. I think it was like a $2 million judgment. So he went to the legislature through his brother and through their good friend Rick Snyder and got a special law passed so that he would not be responsible for that judgment. They made it retroactive so he could get out of it. Isn't that something?
That's fabulous. Well, it's good to know the right people, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, I tell you, I have probably, Justin Grove has 250 to 300 clients who would love to be able to do something like that. They're underwater in their homes. They're facing judgments. They got to go to bankruptcy. Do you think Rick Snyder would care about them?
I don't know. Making that law retroactive and helping that guy out, that was a great service he provided to that very well-heeled individual.
Yeah, funny. I wonder how many people that's going to help. What do you think?
I don't know. I think that people need to equalize the playing field if you're not a multimillionaire, and getting a lawyer on your side is the best way to do that, because the corporations will bank on the fact, and they're relying on the fact that you're not going to get a lawyer, because if you don't, then they can use their team of lawyers to walk all over you.
Yep. And when they send their adjusters to adjuster school, they learn how to say the phrase, what do we do, deny the claim, what do we say, no, what do we say, no, what do we do, deny the claim.
Well, insurance companies are not nonprofit organizations. They are in the business of making money, and they don't make money by paying out big claims, and it's when big claims come in that they really dig their heels in. They're not going to dig their heels in over a minor fender bender, but if you've got a closed head injury, be prepared to get a lot of no's.
Yesterday we had one of our good friends, State Representative Phil Cavanaugh, check in with us, who has been involved in fighting some of the efforts to change the Michigan no-fault law. We have the best Michigan no-fault law. The no-fault law in Michigan is the best no-fault law, best insurance scheme for auto insurance in the country. I know them all across the 50 states, and this is by far the best because you get 3 years of your wage loss from your own insurance company. You have lifetime medical, and you have other benefits that last for 3 years to get your chores done when you've got two broken legs and you've lost two hands. The scheme is set up so that the insurance company will come to bat for you and cover you so you don't lose everything you've worked for. And there's this thing called the Michigan Catastrophic Claims Association, which means that if everybody looks at their insurance policy and they'll see an MCCA contribution, it's going to go up to $175 pretty soon. And the reason why that is because the insurance companies are in charge of it. It's supposed to be a quasi-governmental agency subject to some sort of oversight, but the insurance companies won't allow it. And, of course, our Republican-leaning courts won't force it either. And so what they're saying is that the Michigan Catastrophic Claims Unit is insolvent. They're going to run out of money.
Wait a second.
They got $13 billion in that fund, and they're afraid it's going to go bankrupt.
So you're telling me this. So when I look at my insurance bill and it has all the little itemized things I got to pay out, one of these things I have to pay. It's not optional. I have to donate money to this Catastrophic Claims Act industry or whatever, this slush fund, and you're telling me that they won't release how much money's in it?
No, they release how much money is in it, but they won't tell you what their claims are, what the analysis are, what the numbers are, how much it's grown, how much the growth compares to the payout. It's $13 billion. $13 billion.
It's ridiculous.
It is. Anyway, so Phil Cavanaugh, he has decided that because they're crying the blues so badly and they won't let anybody look at the books, that there is a need for appointment of an emergency manager for the Michigan Catastrophic Claims Association.
That's a great idea.
I hope Governor Snyder, receives this one as well as he received Bobby Shostak's brother's law. I think he might.
Well, if it's good for the state of Detroit, I guess it's good for these big, fat, huge insurance companies, huh?
Yeah, well, anyway, Phil Cavanaugh, State Representative Phil Cavanaugh, serves the people of Redford, parts of Livonia, and Dearborn Heights. He checked in yesterday with the Law Show with his concerns about the potential changes. Here's what he said.
Because we have the best no-fault system in the country, even though insurance companies are making record profits, they still say that it's broken, unsustainable, and it needs reform. And that message was conveyed in the fall of last year, got a lot of leverage. But luckily, I had introduced in June of last year a couple transparency bills that I received 32 sponsors. 6 of them were Republican. And my bills that I introduced June of 2011 basically said that the MCCA, which is a board consisting of 5 insurance companies that determine what each and every one of us are going to pay into the MCCA fund annually, that those meetings should be open to the public, that they should be FOIAble, Freedom of Information Act. We should have a member of the public on that. The insurance commissioner should actually be able to vote. He sits on that, and that is arguably our public representative, but he's not allowed to vote. It's just the 5 big insurance companies. And that an independent audit be done of this fund. The problem I see, this fund has $14 billion in it, 13.7. And every year they raise our rates and just say it's unsustainable and we need to pay more.
Isn't that something?
It's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. And the thing that's so sad, Brian, is I don't think people realize the money just automatically comes out of their insurance bills every month, and they don't even realize where it's going. And the people that are in control of these vast amounts of money are saying we need more. We want more money on top of it, yet they don't even have to show their books. I just don't see how that's fair.
Maybe I should put Max in charge of the cookie jar. What do you think?
Well, it sounds like the insurance companies are in charge of the catastrophic claims cookie jar for sure.
There you go. We're going to continue answering all your legal questions at 855-529-7469. That's 855-529-7469. You can email your questions to questions@thelawshow.com. We're going to talk to Dave right now. He's trying to reinstate his license. Welcome to the Law Show, Dave.
How you doing?
Well, I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I went before the board last year, and the therapist at the time said I had alcohol abuse and not alcoholism, and it was denied. And then my lawyer got a appeal at the time, and I was able to go 4 months later, and I got a new therapist diagnosed as alcoholism, and the guy who reviewed it with the LAD went back to the first review, not the second review.
What's your question for us?
I'm sorry, what?
What is your question?
Do I have any recourse here? Can I appeal this again?
Yeah, well, see, now here's the thing you need to understand. The rights, when you go in front of the DAAD, the Driver and Assessment and Appeal Division, it's called the DAD, when you go in front of them for to request a restricted license after you've lost your license because of, multiple drunk driving cases, the right to appeal is extremely limited. And it's not what's called a de novo appeal. De novo appeal means when the judge looks at everything brand new and starts from scratch. That's not what they do in an appeal from the Secretary of State to the circuit court. A circuit court's review is very limited, and they have to look at several different grounds to see whether or not there was a gross abuse, whether or not they violated your rights under the Constitution, and it's a very limited appeal. For to use common sense terms, unless the hearing officer really screwed up, they're not going to overturn them. And something else that's really important to consider here, and that the Attorney General will remind the Circuit Court judge, is if they overturn the Secretary of State, they can't just, remand it back. They have to grant the person a full-blown license, and they're usually very hesitant to do that. Whether or not in your case it's ripe for an appeal, I would really have to look at all the evidence you presented to the hearing officer in that second hearing, as well as their order justifying why they denied it. If you call me during normal business hours at the same phone number, I'm happy to set up a free consult, bring in your first order, bring in your second order, and bring in all the documents you've submitted to the Secretary of State, and I'll sit down and look at it with you and let you know whether or not your best option is to try and appeal again or simply go back and wait out your time. We're
going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be answering all your legal questions at 855-529-7469. It's The Law Show from High Top Law Show Studios in the home of Motown, Detroit, Michigan, on News Talk 760. I'm Brian Dailey, and I'll be right back.